Has your business been affected by COVID-19? The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is available to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The SBDC is sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration and collaborates with local agencies to support the small business community. The SBDC is nationally accredited and provides free consulting, business education training, and technical assistance. Attend workshops with subject matter experts from both the public and private sector. From idea generation to exit strategies, the staff at the SBDC is ready to assist you. Now is the time to contact them, so don't wait. Call or email them to find out how they can help your business grow and succeed.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch and Learn with the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center. My name is Mary Jo Williams and I'm the Network Training Coordinator for the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center. And for today's Lunch and Learn, we are featuring the Economic Development Commission Small Business Program. And our presenter for today is Ms. Margarita Greenwich Benjamin. Let me give you a little background on Ms. Benjamin. Ms. Benjamin is employed as the Managing Director of the Economic Development by the U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Commission, a division of the U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority. Ms. Benjamin has enormous historic and empirical knowledge of the EDC program, having worked in various capacities during her 30-year tenure with the agency. She held the position of Director of Compliance of the Economic Development Commission from 2002 and was appointed as Director of Application in 2012, prior to her change in current post in 2019. Prior to joining the EDC, Ms. Benjamin worked in accounting and office management capacities in the retail, real estate, and hotel industries. She attended the University of the Virgin Islands and holds a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting and Finance from American International University. She has also completed training with the International Economic Development Council, the Council of Ethical Organizations, Graduate School of USDA, and the Institute of Internal Auditors. Ms. Benjamin has numerous certifications. Now, today's session will be recorded and it will be posted later on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. And without any further delay, I present to you Ms. Margarita Greenwich Benjamin. Ms. Benjamin, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's presentation on our small business program. The U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Commission was formerly known as the Industrial Development Commission, and this program has been in existence for some time now. However, many of our local business owners are not familiar that besides the regular tax incentive program, but we do offer incentives for locally owned businesses similar to our regular program. So today I'm going to start off with talking about what the intent of economic development means for the territory and how do we look at it. Next slide. So the goal of economic development is to have thriving communities with good quality of life for its residents. And you'll note from our program's requirement, we do that by requiring capital investment. So we want to attract investments into our community. We want to create revenues in the community. So we want companies that are doing well and that are profitable and contributing towards improving the quality of life through philanthropic giving and other contributions. And we want to create jobs with meaningful salaries for residents. And so our program do have a workforce development and employment requirement to residents of the Virgin Islands. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the small business program. The commission, one of the policies of the program and our commission is that we must endeavor to encourage and assist in the creation, development, and expansion of locally owned businesses and industries originating in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So as an offspring of our regular program, this development of the small business program came into play. It initially started out with just those companies who were manufacturing goods, and then it was expanded to allow for all of the various different categories and lines of business under the regular program to be able to qualify. Now, what are those eligible activities? The categories are established based on the lines of business. In category 1, you will find information that speaks to the historic type industries from the commencement of our program. And those are the rum production, the milk and dairy production, which is no longer being conducted in the territory, watch and jewelry, and manufacturing and assembly. And those were basically the core foundation of our program. Category 2 speaks to the other types of manufacturing and assembly business that are not captured in category 1, as well as marine and other export type business. Category 3 speaks to our facilities, so that may be anywhere from healthcare facilities, hotels, utility companies, any type of communication developments will fall under category 3. And then category 4 is the typical service business. But the catch to category 4 is that you must be conducting business in the U.S. Virgin Islands and your clients are located outside of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we typically see financial service businesses, background call centers, companies that are doing the background of their parent companies or other businesses in the U.S., such as accounting or payroll processing, et cetera. If they conduct business for clients within the U.S. Virgin Islands, they're considered not eligible, that line of income, and so that is paid. Taxes are paid fully on the line of income for clients located in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The exemptions are applied to the revenues for clients located outside of the U.S. Virgin Islands. What do we offer in terms of incentives? We offer the same incentives that is used for our larger program. 90% exemption on corporate income tax. If a company is not a C corporation, then there is no corporate income tax. If it's a partnership or an LLC, the profits are distributed or dividends and interests are paid to the shareholders or members or partners. And so in that case, for them being a bona fide resident of the U.S. Virgin Islands, they would be entitled to 90% reduction on the personal income tax, only on the distribution or dividends and interest that they receive from the approved business. Companies also receive 100% exemption of the gross receipts on the eligible business activity. If the company owns land or building in which it's conducting its business operation, or it has a long-term lease in which it has title to the improvements on that property, they will receive 100% exemption on the real property and or buildings and improvement as applicable. Excise tax reductions are 100%, and it's in 2 areas. For building materials and component parts used in the building out of their facilities, or for raw materials and component parts used in the industrial or production process. That is 100% exempt. And for custom duties, which is solely for companies engaged in the manufacturing and industrial process, you would receive a reduction from a 6% duty to 1% for foreign-made items that are imported into the U.S. Virgin Islands and used in the manufacturing or industrial process. As a participant in our small business program, the term of incentives is 50% of what is offered in our regular program. In our regular program, our terms for St. Thomas and Don District is 20 years. So a small business participant would receive initial benefits of 10 years. In our St. Croix district, it's 30 years for initial benefits. So a small business participant would receive 15 years. And our companies are entitled to a one-time 10-year extension. And so our small business recipients may apply for a 5-year extension of the incentives. There's also investment, and most of our small businesses do not reach this threshold, but for the benefit of those online, for additional investments made greater than $10 million or $1 million, there's also opportunities to receive additional years of tax incentives. And for a small business participant, again, it would be 50% of the term. So that would be 5 years or 2.5 years based on the amount of additional investment that is made. And these investments are capital investments, meaning tangible assets, capital expenditures in building and improvement, fixed assets related to machinery and equipment, furniture and fixtures, etc. To be a part of our program, we require our applicants to commit to certain requirements. The statute requires that small business participants must commit to a minimum of 2 full-time employees, and they must agree to hire 1 VI resident for every 1 million of net income prior to salaries. 80% of all employees must be residents of the Virgin Islands. So while they commit to 2 full-time employees, if a company has a total of 10 employees, of which 8 are part-time, 80% of the 10 must be residents of the Virgin Islands. All companies are required to have 20% of their employees working in management, supervisory, or technical positions to be filled by VI residents, and that is required to be completed within 3 years from receiving the tax incentives. For investment, unlike our larger program, which minimum capital investment is $100,000, our small business may start off with their investment as low as $20,000. One of the most recent amendments to the statute requires that our small business applicants purchase or build a home within 18 months of receiving tax incentives. And we are continuously lobbying to have this provision removed, noting that some of our small businesses do not necessarily have the capital to start off their business and to have it to grow, and to require them to go outside to purchase a home that is not also under our regular program is a challenge for us being able to have qualified applicants. And so if you do own a home already, we have made concessions for that, but note that under the current statute, small business applicants must agree to purchase or build a home within 18 months of receiving the tax incentives. Companies are also required to purchase goods and services locally to the greatest extent possible. We have an eligible supplier program, and you have an opportunity at one of these other presentations to learn about our eligible supplier program. But our companies can procure directly from an eligible supplier or from Virgin Islands licensed businesses without having certain requirements put on them through our program rules and regulations. Typically, if you are procuring goods or services over $25,000, you must put it out to bid. If you procure directly from an eligible supplier, then that it would be considered exempt. So there's a whole policy issue around purchasing goods and services locally so that we can see the multiplier effect within our community. And so while we do recognize there are certain goods and services that are not readily available in the territory, there is a provision for waivers as those situations occur. All of our companies are also required to provide educational assistance, which may be monetary, scholarship, internship, or training, and that is based on what is presented by the applicant as what is appropriate for their particular business. What's important to note is that under the educational assistance requirements, companies under our regular program are required to pay $3,000 annually to the Board of Education, whereas in our small business program, our small business applicants are exempt from this requirement. All of our companies are required to have a management training program in place where they would identify trainees to fill management positions and grow in their business. And that must have a line item for a training budget as part of their projections. Employee leave is also documented in our rules and in the law as to what types of annual leave would be provided for the employees as part of their benefit program package. There's also requirements for 2 hours that's in the law for your employees to go to their children's school without loss of pay. And then there's also the donated leave and sports requirements that are allowed in the statute to allow employees to take advantage of those additional leave requirements. The sport leave is required for employees who are participating and representing the U.S. Virgin Islands in different athletic events, such as the Olympics. There's also the donated leave program, which is similar to what is done in the central government. And so that requires that if an employee is on extended leave and they no longer has enough paid leave time, that another employee can transfer their leave to that employee and not lose time of pay. Charitable contribution, while not statutory, it is a policy and it's part of our rules and regulations that we want to see our companies are contributing to our community. And so the companies would commit to provide charitable contribution, whether it be monetary or in-kind services to local nonprofits or 501c3 entities and government programs that meet the requirements for charitable giving. And typically, there must be in compliance with local and federal laws and rules. The last bullet you see on the bottom speaks to the Department of Labor. Department of Labor, there is a requirement that all of our companies pay $2,500 annually to the Department of Labor to allow them to maintain and manage a database that would provide opportunities for recruitment of Virgin Islanders living abroad, as well as here, to be able to participate and be able to get employment through our EDC program. So in exchange for us granting a company those tax exemptions, they must also commit to these requirements. So our small business participants are exempt. They don't have to pay an application fee, which can go anywhere from $500 to $7,500 based on the type of business, a one-time activation fee once the certificate is issued, or annual compliance fees. Our small business applicants are exempt from that. Our small business applicants are exempt from having to provide a pension plan, which would include retirement and or sick and insurance and paid leave. However, we do encourage as much as possible, and the applications are favorably considered once there is a form of benefit plan that goes out to the employees, but our small business applicants are not mandated to have those in place. And again, the $3,000 that is paid to the Board of Education, our small business applicants are exempt from that requirement. Now, how do we determine that you meet our small business requirements? You must be certified by our agency, another sister agency under the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority, now called the Economic Development Bank, was previously called the Small Business Development Agency. And those criteria are established by the law as to how we would determine what is a small business applicant. So in order to receive that certification, you must fill out application forms and submit them to SBDA, now known as EDB, as evidence that you meet the residency requirements and that the owners are actively involved in the management of the business on a full-time basis, and that is their principal means of support. For the residency requirement, a person must own at least, for the eligibility requirements, a person must own at least 50% of the legal or equity in the business and is actively involved in the management and operation of the small business on a full-time basis. As I stated before, the small business concern must be their principal means of support. For the residency requirement, the individual must have been born in the U.S. Virgin Islands or their parents were born in the U.S. Virgin Islands and they have been residing here continuously for at least 5 years, or they must be a bona fide resident for the United States Virgin Islands and has been here for 10 years, at least 10 years. So there are 3 residency requirements. You were born in the U.S. Virgin Islands, or your parents were born in the U.S. Virgin Islands and you have resided here for at least 5 years, or you have been a continuous bona fide resident for at least 10 years. If one of the shareholders, members, or partners is a corporate entity, then that should meet the 50% legal equitable interest in the business, and it must be also domiciled here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So simply what happens is, as part of the EDC application process, it requires you to indicate whether you're applying as a small business applicant and to attach your certification from the Small Business Development Agency of the Economic Development Bank. And that is added onto your application. Our applications are now online, and you can visit our website at www.usvieda.org, in which you will be able to gain access to our online application. But please remember, you must receive your certification prior, because that would be an attachment to your application to be uploaded online so that you can be eligible for consideration as a small business applicant. I now open up for any questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Benjamin. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and we have a relatively small group, so you can raise your hand and we will recognize you, and then you can unmute your mic. Well, I have a question while they're thinking about their question. So where it indicates SBDA in the presentation, that's now the Government Development Bank or Economic Development Bank?
So in the amendments to the statute, it changed under the EDC, the reference to now called the Economic Development Bank, but the SBDA provision in the statute still remains as SBDA, and it still has those conditions that's there. As we are going to be amending the code, we will want to reconcile the both 2 sections of the statute, but yes, legally, SBDA still exists, and those requirements that the EDB is applying is based on the SBDA requirements.
Okay, great, thank you. There's a question. I understand it is now okay if you already own a home versus having to purchase one. Is that correct?
Yes, the board has looked at this particular situation in the statute and understand the intent of the statute. And so they have allowed applicants who have already acquired a home to be eligible under the provision of the small business program without having to purchase or build a new home.
Especially if you have a small family, you don't need a second home. All right, and they say that's a fabulous point. All right, and you guys are operating remotely right now, is that correct?
We are participating most of the time remotely. However, we do have staff members that are in office. We have access to our telephone line. So we ask if a company wants to come in person that they contact us in advance so that arrangements can be made to appropriately put in place any COVID measures for safety.
Okay. And as indicated by the flyer, you're located at Niski Center on St. Thomas and on King Street in St. Croix.
Absolutely correct. And again, our application process is now virtually. We've just turned over to a new platform that allowed for some additional features that were not available in the prior platform. And so as we work through this process, we're trying as much as possible to make it seamless for our potential applicants and investors that are interested in doing business in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I see another question.
Okay. Would supply houses be eligible since we buy most products off island, to be able to offer them locally?
The intent of the program is to diversify the economy. And so if you're doing a line of business that is retail related, a wholesale related, that it's not distribution outside of the territory where there is a new transshipment program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, and hopefully we'll have one of those presentations coming up regarding the transshipment and export program. But under the EDC program, if you're not actually repackaging and distributing your products through the assembly end, it will not qualify. As most of our, probably the majority of our staples come into the territory from outside. However, your company may qualify as a Virgin Islands eligible supplier.
And we're going to present that program in September. Eligible supplier. So stay tuned to come back for that presentation. Can anyone apply now if the 10-year residency is effective October, assuming the process for approval will take a couple of months?
If you apply before we have the prerequisite documents attached to your application would be deemed incomplete, and we will not be able to proceed with the process until such time, because then we will be looking at you outside of the small business arena, and we will be treating you as a regular applicant. And if you don't meet those requirements, then technically you would be denied. And so we ask as much as possible that you ensure that your application is complete once it's received, so that we can facilitate a smooth process as we go through from public hearing. Our applicants are required to present in a public hearing on the merits of their application, and then we go to decision meeting, and that 60-day period from public hearing to a board's decision is contingent on the completeness of the application.
So if a person if a business is operating, they can go ahead and apply for the small business designation before the individual's 10-year residency is up?
No, they would not be approved if they applied before, because they would want to ascertain anything can happen within the period. So they definitely, you can go ahead and start put in your paperwork in, and as soon as you meet that 10-year, I would say to submit it in. But if you do submit the paperwork and it's not effective as yet, they're going to wait, because they want to make sure that that is the case.
Okay. So what exactly is involved in the designation as a small business?
As a designated of a small business, the Small Business Development Agency requires them to file an affidavit regarding their residency requirement. They may ask for proof of residency, such as tax returns, leases of business or personal residence. So they would ask for other information as they deem applicable to satisfy that that individual has been residing here for that 10-year period.
So
and
it's
what's key, that's the tax home, yeah.
So it's best just to wait until your 10 years are up, and then just have all your documents ready to submit as soon as your 10 years are up.
Correct. Again, if they file their application absent of any document, not just the certification, any document that is required as part of the application process, it is deemed incomplete, and we do not move forward with the process until such time that we've received that document.
If a business is denied benefits, is there a waiting period to reapply?
If a business is denied incentives, we would notify them of the reasons for the denial. There is a 10-day period in which the applicant may ask for reconsideration if they are willing to address the deficiencies or the reasons that the board has determined that the client is not eligible for incentives at that particular time. Thereafter, if the next year comes up and they decide they want to reapply, they're now in a better position. to address the issues because the 10-day period have passed. They would then have to refile a new application and ensure that all of the requirements have been satisfied. Note, however, we do not give retroactive, and companies that are applying, that are existing companies, must prove as part of their application why it would be beneficial to remove them off of the tax roll and give them incentives. What would be the added impact to the territory that would balance out us removing them from the tax roll? Notably, we also do not give retroactive benefits. So if you applied before and was denied, and then you came a year or two later, we would be looking at it from the period going forward, and you would have to satisfy that all prior taxes were paid in full, or that you're under a payment plan and you're in good standing with that payment plan.
Now, it appears that I have hogged the question section. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like to have addressed? Can you repeat the part about product assembly and local products and supplies, and more information in regards to manufacturing locally?
If a company is a manufacturer and they're conducting manufacturing here locally, they are using raw materials, labor, and having a finished good produced here in the territory, they're allowed, they are eligible under our program, and they are allowed to provide goods wholesale as a manufacturer. So there is no limitation on who your clients are as a manufacturer or as an assembly of goods for redistribution in bulk. However, if you're just merely importing goods and retailing and reselling those goods out, then that is not an eligible activity. There is no transformation of the goods.
Okay. Now, I don't see any questions in the chat right now. Does anyone want to ask a question online? You can raise your hand and we can acknowledge you, and you can unmute your mic. All right. And if no one has a question.
Good afternoon. I have a question. Is there any provision for military leave for service members or these EDC beneficiaries?
Unfortunately, all particular applicants are based on what the standard presentation that I made today. There is no specific exemption for military individuals. You would still need to meet for the regular program. While the minimum commitments are higher, there is not the extensive residency requirement as the small business residency. So an individual under the regular program would only need to be a bona fide resident, meaning that they here is their tax home. They have resided here for over 183 years. They have a closer connections to the territory than they do to the US. And so that requirement is less in terms of the residency requirement. However, they have more commitments that they must commit to, higher commitments that they must agree to commit to, as well as employment requirements. So your answer is no, no special preference under the tax incentive for veterans.
No preferential treatment for veterans.
Correct.
Okay, so now
we also, just so you know, and you'll be having another series of presentations. We do have other types of tax credit and incentive programs available through the Economic Development Authority, such as our Enterprise Zone Commission program. And so please stay tuned to listen out for when those programs are scheduled, as you may qualify under any of those other programs and not necessarily the Economic Development Commission's program.
And just to promote that, the Enterprise Zone program will be next week, Thursday at 12 noon. And that presenter will be Ms. Nadine Marchena-Ken. And she will give you all the ins and outs about the Enterprise Zone.
Correct. And if you think of a question after you've left this session, you can contact me via email at MA, and maybe Joe, if you can assist me by putting my email in the chat, mabenjamin@usvieda.org. And I'll be happy to answer any subsequent questions you may think of after we've left this presentation.
Oops, I think I got it right. mabenjamin@usvieda.org.
Correct.
Cool. Now we're scheduled to have Ms. Benjamin all the way up until 1:30. But if you guys don't have any additional questions, we will allow her to go take an early lunch. And we will look forward to seeing you guys next week. Next week, Tuesday, there will not be the webinar Tuesday with SBA. That will resume on the 31st of August. And next week, Thursday at 12 noon, we will have the EDA with the Enterprise Zone, and Ms. Nadine Marchena-Ken will be the presenter for that presentation. We will send out a copy of this PowerPoint presentation to everyone that attended today's session via email. And if you, again, like Ms. Benjamin said, if you have any questions, you can send her an email directly, or you can call the office and they will direct your phone call. And on behalf of the State Director of the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, Mr. Ted Gutierrez, and the fabulous staff for the VI Economic Development Authority throughout the territory, as well as the fabulous staff of the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, we want to thank you all for joining us today. Please share the information with other people, and we look forward to working with you in the coming days. Thank you all for joining us. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you.